is David, he lays the foundation. All you need is David, he lays the foundation. Mr. BYOE, build your own economy. Mr. Ability and see what we can become. All you need is David, Mr. BYOE. I'ma build my economy, I'ma take control. If you wanna be average, you're not like me. You tryna think small, you need is David.
Welcome to our live event. Every week I come at you with strategies to build wealth, specifically as it revolves around real estate. Like, I love real estate. I don't know about you guys. Real estate's my jam. It's the thing I think about all the time. I'm always looking for deals. I'm always talking about deals. I'm always flipping deals or doing something with the deal. Here's the deal today, though. Today, we're going to talk about syndication. Syndications are a very, very interesting topic because it's the one thing that I think is talked about a lot, but very, very, very rarely really understood. And I want to break down the real estate tax strategies for syndications because if you get this, just to be clear, if you stay to the end and you get this, what's going to happen is you're not going to make the mistakes that many people make when they invest in syndications. What is the root word, right? Syndicate. Now, syndicate means to bring together, okay? It's a group, a community of people together, to syndicate something, to bring on more people, to bring into the masses, syndication. Now, if you want to say syndication in a different way, we would call it crowdfunding. All right, crowdfunding is getting people's money and putting it together to go buy a deal. So when you think syndication, typically we think, not a good drawer, but we're thinking about apartments. We're thinking about large commercial deals, large multifamily deals, usually done like this. Now, typically a syndication is done, you get real syndications when the deal is larger than 2 to 3 million is usually where it's at, okay? When you're doing smaller deals, you wouldn't want to syndicate a house. That's just too much work. Syndications typically require things. So let me break this down, okay? A syndication typically requires a few documents: a PPM, a private placement memorandum, a operating agreement, an LP partnership, and a GP partnership. And typically, this is the structure. Private placement memorandum is a document that exposes the deal, the terms, the management, the leadership, the business plan, what's going to happen. The operating agreement says these are the parties involved and these are their roles and this is our exit and this is what we want to do in the event of a sale. Limited partner agreement is the amount of people who come into the deal as limited partners. They're not going to do anything. They put their hands up, they put their money out or whatever, and they're done. And then GPs, that's a GP agreement is typically the general partnership. It's typically the people like the person who found the deal, the person who manages the deal, maybe large fundraisers are part of the deal. There's all these people, right? So you got these syndication model is PPM, operating agreement, LP, GP. Now, they all do this, they put this together, and they buy this large multifamily deal. Now, the multifamily deals, by the way, I could use any deal. It could be a large warehouse complex. It could be a large X. It doesn't matter. A group of people, a group of homes or whatever. Typically, in my opinion, it's usually going to be $2+ million is where you want to get a PPM and all that. And the reason being, to establish your own syndication, which most people have aspirations to, typically costs between, let's call it $5,000 and $30,000, depending on the type of legal structure. Now, I can go more expensive, like we have a big announcement of a fund coming out. You're the first to hear about it. And that was a fund to raise money to do some development. And guess what? It's a huge opportunity, but it's costing me $100,000 in legal fees to do it. So I'm putting up a lot of money to make this happen, not $5,000. So syndications are totally different. So syndications are synonymous with crowdfunding. Now, I'm going to teach you the tax strategies that work on this. I just want you to know what it is. Syndication, group of people put their money together, go buy a large deal. Similar to crowdfunding, typically apartments. Syndications typically involve a private placement memorandum agreement, an operating agreement, a limited partnership agreement, and a general partnership agreement, which all combine again to make a syndication. Boom. Drop the mic, right? Okay, cool. If we're all on the same page, if you got questions, put them in the chat. By the way, if you can't tell, I love this model because I believe that if you could get into bigger deals, you'd have more opportunity. Now, let's talk about the deals, right? So now that I know what it is, you know what it is, we're all on the same page. Here's what we're going to learn about, okay? So we have an apartment complex, $5 million. If I had to guess at the number of doors for $5 million, it'd probably be somewhere between 30 and 60, okay? 30 and 60. In this case, we'll use 30 doors. So it's 30 units. And I know it's about that. Now, it sounds crazy, but you know what? Let's do some cool math together. Look, hold on. I want to do this with you, okay? So if you wanted to do this, you would get $5 million. And if you want to know something that's interesting, get the $5 million and you divide it by the 30 units. And that gives you an average price per door, $166,000 per door, okay? Now, why did I do that? I don't know. I just like to know the price per door. By the way, I was watching a video last night about these apartment complexes for seniors because I've been thinking about that market. And they were telling me that the average cost per door in a senior assisted living development is $260,000. So it's $100,000 more. So check it out. So if I did, it was $260,000 and I multiplied that times the 30 doors, it's a $7.8 million play, the same size. Isn't that freaking crazy? So much more money. Anyway, all right. So we got this $5 million deal, 30 units. How do we get into the deal to syndicate it? Okay. To syndicate this deal, here's how it works. To get the deal, you probably want to do financing. Okay. Financing is cool because that's how you leverage your money. Now, the bank is going to want 20% down, okay? That 20% down equals what? $1 million. So now, as a syndicator, I get to raise money if I want to raise money to get this deal, and I just got to raise $1 million and I get a $5 million deal. So I raised 1 million, I got 5 million. That's called leverage. Cool. Now, it may be a little more than 1 million because you got earnest money, you've got appraisal fees, you got title companies, all these things. You're probably looking at 1,050,000, 1.1 million, somewhere in that neighborhood. But either way, so we're at $1 million to get the 5 million. Now check it out. So to raise the $1 million, I've got to find people, okay? And let's use 100%, right? 100% of the $1 million. Okay, this is going to sound interesting, but I want you to get this. So when we set up an agreement to purchase a property in a syndicated model, to raise the $1 million, everybody who contributes gets a percentage of the pie. If this was a pie like this, and it was 100% of the pie, and this pie was equal to 1 million, I'm going to put 1 M in the middle. Okay, now we need to determine how much of the pie everybody gets. Now, typically what happens is it is separated from the get-go. So if I were to draw it, it would look like this. This equals 30%, okay? This equals 70%. The 70% represents LPs, limited partners. The 30% represents GPs, general partnerships, okay? So when you invest in a syndication, this is very good. You got to pay attention here. When you invest in a syndication, you are buying into either the 70 or the 30. Now, what determines which one you? Number one, your role in the property. If you are going to participate as an active manager of the property, then you might invest into the general partnership. But just so you know, you don't get to make that decision. The person who puts together the deal gets to make that decision because they may not need you. They may not even want you. You know, if I were putting together the deal and you said, David, I want to be a GP, I'd be like, all right, tell me what kind of experience you have in multifamily. Well, I don't have any. Perfect. Then you can't be a GP. GPs are typically reserved for people who actively participate in the management, have some sort of strategic objective, meaning they either are the capital raiser, they're the person who signs on the note, they're the person who has the resources, they have experience, they have something. So you really can't get into the GP side, general partners, unless you have interest in the deal that is beyond money. Beyond money. Okay, remember that, beyond money. So most people, just to be clear, are going to participate in the 70 because they are coming in with money. So the way that we calculate the deal is if there's 100% of the deal, 30% is already allocated to the general partners. When you invest and you put $100,000 in the deal, because you're like, I'm going to put 100K in this deal, David, that $100,000 is only buying a percentage of the 70%. Okay? And in this case, if it was $1 million we're raising and there's $1 million to be raised in the 70%, you would get 10% of the 70%. Let me say it again. There's 100% of the million we're raising. Okay? So 100% of $1 million. And I'm going to invest 100,000. So I've got 100,000. So 100,000 of 1 million is 10%. In the 10%, my 10% is going to be pushed into the limited partnership because I'm putting money. And in the 70% of the limited partnership, I am going to own 7% because I'm putting my 10% into the 70%, which is 7% of the deal. So I actually own 7% of the entire deal. So David, DAP, put 100,000 and he gets this little 7% because I put 100K. And let's just say my boy Alex here in the room, he's like, hey man, I want in on this deal. And I'm like, Alex, all right, come on in, bro. And he's like, I got 200K. So Alex is going to put 200. And so Alex is going to get a double the share, you know? I mean, he's got a bigger share than me. So he's going to get a little bigger and he is going to own 14%. So I had 7, he's got 14. Now, the reason, again, this is important, by the way, you're probably wondering, like, why is he going into such detail on what the David? This is important because your percentage of ownership is going to be equated to your tax advantages, okay? Percentage of ownership is equal to the tax savings. So if you don't know how to get into the deal, how much money you put in gets you how much percentage, you will be left making investments, I don't know why I'm doing this, that are bad. And you'll be, oh my God, you'll come and you'll say, David, I got my tax docs from this syndication. They said I was going to have these big tax savings. And I look at it and I'm like, no, actually you don't get, I'm sorry. So now that we know that 100% of the money needs to be raised, that if you're investing, just to be clear, if you're an investor in a syndication, the likelihood that you'll be a limited partner is probably 99% of the time. So as a limited partner who invests in real estate, as a limited partner who invests in this syndication, you will be limited in your tax deductions as well. Okay? So the way this works is, for limitation purposes, let's say the $1 million. Now we're going to do the tax savings. So we got a $5 million property, okay? And out of that $5 million, right? Out of the $5 million, we need to subtract the land value because land value can't be any tax benefits. I'm going to assume the land value is $1 million. So I have $4 million, and this is what I would like to refer to as the structural value of a property. So we have a $4 million asset that we now have to depreciate. This is the strategy is called depreciation. Now, depreciation is what we use in technical terms to take an asset, which is a item or property that has a useful life. I love to use my cell phone. A cell phone is an asset that has a useful life. And when I put it on my tax return, guess what? The IRS says this thing has a 3 to 5 year useful life. And guess what? They let me put it on my tax return and take it as a deduction. Well, we do this here as well. Now, what they mean by useful life is they determine how long something is good for. That could be property. Properties typically of this status, this multifamily, 27.5 years, okay? 27.5 years is typically the useful life of a multifamily property. So traditionally, you would take 27 and a half years and divide it into the $4 million. That would give you what you call a depreciation expense. So you do $4 million divided by 27.5. You've got $145,000 per year. So per year for 27 and a half years, $145,000 in a deduction. So everybody who's a part of this deal would split a piece of the 145 as a deduction that goes on their tax return. Everyone would split it, okay? Now, again, if there's 10 partners, depending on your ownership percentage would determine. So in this case, David has 7%. So David is going to get, in year one, $145,000 times 7%. David's going to get a $10,000 deduction, $10,100. And guess what? Alex is getting a $20,200. Man, this guy's making it. All right, so Alex gets 20,000, I get 10,000 because he put in 200,000, I put in 100,000. I got 7%, he got 14%. That's how we calculate it. So boom, we're good. Okay. Now, this is not cool because it's like, so I put $100,000 in to get a $10,000 tax deduction. Ain't that some bull, right? That's what I'd be saying. I need a bigger deduction than that. And then they call David. David comes in, like the other David. This David comes in. He's like, I can help you. See, we can make that depreciation expense go boom. We can make it go boom. What do you mean, guys? What do you mean? We can accelerate that. Accelerate? What do you mean? Like make it go faster? Yes, I can make it go faster. How do you do that, David? It's called the cost segregation. So David comes in and he says, look, we're going to take that $4 million and we're going to make it go faster. So I don't want to take 145 in the first year. I want to take a lot more. In fact, based on my knowledge, expertise, and years of experience, 15 years in the tax industry, 50,000 tax returns, thousands of clients served, millions of dollars saved, I know what to do. So here's what I do. I put $4 million, and based on my knowledge and skill set, I know that the IRS will allow me to take 30% if I do a cost segregation study. So I'm going to take 30% of that, $1.2 million. So instead of doing this 145,000, I'm going to take in year one, I'm going to take 1.2 million, M-I-L-L-I-O-N, dollars as a deduction. I feel like Mr. Dr. Evil, $1 million, right? This is my deduction. Now, let's talk about what David and Alex are going to get. So David still owns 7%. So I'm going to take $1.2 million times 7. And I just turned my $10,000 into $84,000. That's my accelerator. Now, Alex, man, he's really winning. He's got 168. You're going to get 168,000, Alex. But if you want to add more money to it, go for it, okay? And I'm going to get $84,000 because I accelerated depreciation. Now, here is the big bullshit that you're going to learn real quick. So David's going to get the $84,000. The problem with the $84,000 deduction. When David files his tax return, his 1040, he is going to get a form from this deal. It's going to send it to his 1040 called a K1. This K1 comes from the partnership. And the K1 says David has a negative $84,000. And that goes to my personal tax return. So it's going to say negative. And you're like, yeah, buddy, it's going to subtract from my income. Hold up there, cowboy. All right, that $84,000 is going to be pushed to your tax return. Here is the nuance. When they report this to you, you have two ways to be reported: passive or non-passive. Let me tell you the difference. Passive means I put money into a deal. I let the deal make money or lose money. I let it do its own thing. I have no say in the involvement of that property. I don't make decisions because I'm a limited partner. So the $84,000 flows to my tax return. Okay? Now you have different types of income. Non-passive income. Your job, your business, your stocks, your bonds, capital gains, the sale of equipment, machinery. That is called non-passive. Passive income is real estate and certain business activities. Those are the only things that are passive. When you get this $84,000 passive K1, it can only offset passive income on your tax return. So I bring this $84,000 over here and I'm like, yeah, it's on my tax return, right? And I got negative $84,000. You know, it's good because I made $250,000 from my company. Yeah. But then I'm like, let me try to apply it. I'm like, let's subtract from the 250 that 84. And the IRS is like, That is called passive income, David. And you can't subtract passive losses against non-passive income. Why not? Because that's just the way the rules work. So now the negative 84,000 stays on my tax return until I either make passive income in another way from another real estate activity, or if I had rental income from other activities and it's on my return and I had a gain, like say I had a rental property, made me 220 grand, let's say $20,000, it made me 20,000. then it could be subtracted from the 84, and that would be great. So you do 64,000. You know what I'm saying? It would wipe it out. But going into syndications, just to be clear, as an LP, which is where you're going to start, I'm just telling you right now, you will have to wait to get passive losses against passive losses. So the negative on your tax return, and I got that question right now, Jamie, the negative on your tax return stays suspended until you can use it. And all that 100,000 that I invested and all that hype that I had for negatives doesn't work. And that's the truth about syndications. If you are going to be a general partner in this scenario over here with the pie, you could be a general partner if you have contributions to the deal greater than money. That's usually the case. But sometimes GPs could be brought into the deal because they're going to let you use their credit or let you use their experience or let you use something that they possess, a designation, some experience or credit. Usually you can do that. Now, the reason you should know this is because just having the title GP doesn't automatically qualify you as a rep, because you still have to meet the IRS requirements for a real estate professional, which is the 750 hours, the more than half of your income or your participation, not income, more of your activity, more than half of whatever your activity is. If you have multiple businesses, multiple things you do, at least half has to be in real estate. Those are the two requirements. If you still can't meet them, then you're still, even if you're a GP, you're passively in the deal. I'm preparing for a boot camp coming up at the beginning of December that breaks down this at an even higher level, like crazy level, 2 days of just talking about the strategies by which you need to take action on to maximize your tax savings and invest in real estate. We work with thousands of clients across this country right now in a capacity to help them maximize their tax and investment strategies so that they don't have to pay taxes, so they can keep more of their money, so they can protect their assets and build wealth for them and their families. I'd love to help you at some capacity at some time, but don't worry, I'm not here to pitch you. Put me a thumbs up in the chat, say, David, you rock, so at least I can keep going, because sometimes I get discouraged. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you next Wednesday, same bad time, same bad channel. All right, have a great and fantastic rest of your day. Bye-bye.